Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at this album here. It's by XTC and it is Drums and Wires. So this review was requested by someone by the name of StewTube. So thank you very much for requesting this. I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So this was XTC's third album, released on the 17th of August in 1979. Prior to the album coming out, XTC's keyboard player Barry Andrews had left the band. Now this came somewhat off a relief, for me personally, his keyboard tones very much dominated those first two XTC albums, and on the second one, Go To, he started writing some rather subpar songs as well, and the actual leader of XTC, Andy Partridge, felt that his authority was kind of being undermined by Barry, I think Partridge himself was quite relieved that Barry Andrews decided to leave the band. And replacing him was someone who would come to make quite a big mark on XTC's sound and music generally. It was Dave Gregory, who was a guitarist and all-round multi-instrumentalist and arranger, who, like I said, very much changed XTC's sound for the better. On this album in particular, there's some really great guitar interplay between him and Andy Partridge, and that would become a signature part of subsequent XTC albums, including Black Sea and English Settlement. So producing this album was Steve Lillywhite and engineered by Hugh Padgham. This was a formidable team, or would become a formidable team, because they were in the early days of their production career. I think this was maybe the second or third album Lillywhite had produced, and they were really developing that sort of signature drum sound, what would come to define a lot of their work in the 80s, that kind of gated reverb thing was very much pioneered on the song Making Plans for Nigel. Recording the album was quite a quick affair as well. It was recorded over a 4-week period at the Townhouse Studios in London, I believe. And the title of the album, Drums and Wires, comes from the fact that the album is dominated by, largely drums and also guitar strings, so i.e. wires. Commercially, the performance was okay for this album. It reached number 34 in the UK charts, which is interestingly lower than the last album, Go To, but I think this was perhaps more of a kind of slow burner off an album, because it was only after the release of the top 20 single Making Plans for Nigel that the album got any real attention, and the concerts of that started to fill up. Internationally, it got to number 176 over in America, so quite a poor performance there, but quite a remarkably good number 2 spot in Canada. Must have struck a nerve there, and like I said, it's to this day critically acclaimed, appearing on many top 70s albums lists. So I'll show you my vinyl copy of it here. This one I bought, I believe, in America when I was over there a couple of years ago, and it's a promo copy as well. So there's the cover there, there's the back of it there. I do like the cover. I think it's really bright, very vibrant, very much fits the album, I think. But this is quite a nice white label promo copy there, just with the see-through label. So yeah, it's on Virgin Records, but yeah, this is a white label promo of it, and like I said, this is the American track list as well, which we'll discuss in a little bit. And here's the insert, so you get a nice picture of the band there, and then the lyrics on the other side. And then also in this is a bonus 7-inch here. So on here, I'm not sure if this is the original outer bag or that, but you get 2 songs on here, a song called Chain of Command, and then another track called Limelight, a Colin Moulding song there. So yeah, that also came with early versions of the album. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album songs in detail. So I'll score each track out of 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album.
We're only making plans for Nigel.
So the album kicks off with the lead single, Making Plans for Nigel, which I have got the 7-inch for it here, so I will just show that. So yeah, for me, I've maybe overheard this song a tad. It is definitely the XTC song you hear the most. It's probably their signature song, really. But yeah, it is, for me, I'm maybe growing a little bit tired of it, but I do still think it is a great song, though. and it's a unique track for sure, especially with like Teddy Chambers' kind of backwards kind of drum pattern like on it, and those very sort of overdriven kind of distorted guitars like on it. Quite yeah, like different like for like the time really. Like it's a song which hasn't really dated, I don't think. Like I said, like that's like partly down to Lillywhite and Padgham's production. Yeah, very much the first example of what would become their signature drum sound. And apparently this is the track they spent the longest on working on the album, so they spent apparently about like a week just doing this track, and like then 3 weeks for the rest of the album. So yeah, kind of definitely wanting to get like the single right. And to the actual song itself, now it's a Colin Moulding song, so this was like one of the first singles he had like for XTC, like one of the first songs like in fact like what he wrote like for like the band. And lyrically it's basically like about like a parent sort of like setting a sort of like future career path like for like their son, and saying like he's got like a future like in British steel and that kind of sort of dominating and planning like his future. And he like I said, like as a single was a breakthrough hit like for XTC, reached up 17 on the UK charts. I swear it should have got higher because it is a great song. But like again, I'll go back to the point that I've maybe overheard the song just a tad, but it's still worthy of a 10 out of 10 for me.
When she's up there twirling round, just like a helicopter.
The next song up is called Helicopter, which is a fun little song. It's got really kind of bouncy beat on it, and these really good like sort of like backing vocals on it. According to the songwriter of this one, Andy Partridge, he says that like the lyric idea sort of came from the music, which he said kind of like the guitar sound, that sort of like that very sort of brash, like abrasive sounded to him like the blades of a helicopter. So hence like the song, and yeah, lyrically it's maybe a bit daft. It's kind of like it's like not the most mature song like he's ever wrote, but it's just a whole lot of fun. And like I said, it was and like it was earmarked like as a single as well. Like however they issued the non-album track Wait Till Your Boat Goes Down, a much inferior song like instead like as a single, and like that like didn't do anything. But yeah, Helicopter though, fantastic little song there. For me, another 10 out of 10.
Life begins at the heart. Boys.
Next I've got on my version of the album is Life Begins at the Hop, which yes was only on the US version of the album because it was a non-album single here in the UK, released the April before the album came out. But yeah, I will still score the track because it was on like some international versions of it. And yeah, it is a great song. This is kind of got a, almost sort of Motown style, some sort of very upbeat like kind of feel to it. You've got a great guitar riff on it played by Dave Gregory, like in like his first contribution to the band. And like as I said, despite releasing like some great singles before this, things like This Is Pop and Statue of Liberty, this was the first one to chart, albeit only at number 54. And it was kind of like when this one sort of like got like that like very small bit like of success, the record company kind of began to look like at Colin Moulding like to like provide like the hits, and like he sure did, like I said, providing like their next two big hit singles. So yeah, Life Begins at the Hop for me would get a 10 out of 10. Really, really fantastic song.
Day in, day out.
Next track up is called Day In, Day Out, which, as I said, this was on the original UK version, so like it's not on my copy. And for me, it's the weakest song on the album, so it was quite a good one to sort of bump off like the American version of it. It's another Colin Moulding song, but yeah, for me it is the weakest track. It's kind of just generic lyrically about sort of like the working week, like he sings on it, like it's kind of things like Friday's Heaven, like is like one of the lines like on it. It's just not a great song, not really interesting, doesn't really go anywhere, this song for me. So yeah, that one would only get a 5 out of 10. I may be being a bit too harsh there, but I just don't really get the song. It's a song which I always forget about, like in like the XTC back catalogue.
When you're near me, I have difficulty sleeping at night.
Next track up is another great track though. It is called When You're Near Me, I Have Difficulty, which is a Partridge song and just another fun song, this. It's about someone who's sort of like in love, but like sort of can't control like their like reactions. Like there's some like, yeah, like funny lyrics on it, like when you're near me I have difficulty respirating, when you're near me I have difficulty concentrating. It kind of goes on like that, and it's just a fun song, this. Musically it's fantastic, it's got some really cool production on it, like there's a part like where where kind of like the instruments drop out, he sings like, and I feel like a jellyfish, and then you've got this kind of like reverse reverb effect like going on, like sort of like again like the engineer Padgham like sort of like putting his little gold dust like on like the song. So but yeah, another really solid track here. For me, yeah, another 10 out of 10. Fantastic song.
I feel like I'm walking around a turn of the toe. While you say
Next track up is 10 Feet Tall, which is another Colin Moulding song, and it's a pleasant track, this, I think. It was apparently inspired by the hit of the day, Nick Lowe's Cruel to Be Kind, and it has got a very kind of similar, very poppy, sort of commercial kind of flavour to it. Again, like it's another, it's a track which was issued as a US single, but not here for some reason. Now I probably do prefer the single version overall. It just has a bit more meat on it. It's a little bit more punchy, more energetic, and like this album version, like in comparison, just sounds a bit lazy, especially like the way like he's singing it. It's kind of, yeah, just a very sort of like lazy performance. But like on the other hand, I muchly prefer the guitar solo on this version. Dave Gregory pulls in an excellent performance, like, but yeah, like I've no idea like what happened like on the single version. It just doesn't sound anywhere near as good. So it's, yeah, I suppose it's all like swings and roundabouts. But yeah, 10 Feet Tall, another good track there, a song which I would give a 9 out of 10 to. Next track up, which closes off side one, is maybe my favourite on the album. It's Rhodes Girdle the Globe, which is possibly the heaviest song. It's definitely the heaviest song like on the album, and it's maybe the heaviest song like in the XTC catalogue, and I think it is absolutely amazing. Especially so is the guitar interplay between Partridge and Gregory. It's just absolutely sublime, like when like they pull out a song like this, it kind of makes you just so glad that like Barry Andrews like left like the band, and like they were able to sort of like create kind of just masterpieces like this. And yeah, kind of like it is very brash, very abrasive sort of song, which is sort of like very much fits the theme like of the track, like which is kind of like a stand against like industrialization and kind of Rhodes like taking over the world. Like Partridge has said like he wanted the track to sound like cars were like making music and sort of like crashing into one another, and that's exactly what it sounds like. They kind of hit the nail right on the head there. And then also not to forget Moulding's very good bass side. He's kind of like going like up and down the neck and that. It just sounds incredible. And yeah, for me it is one of my personal favourite XTC songs like they ever done. So yeah, Rhodes Girdle the Globe, fantastic track, another 10 out of 10. Next track opening up side 2 is called Real by Real, which is a like a good little rocker. This one is kind of about like government surveillance and kind of people's like paranoia like on it. Once again, you've got an absolutely great guitar solo from Dave Gregory, certainly one of his like finest moments. He just got such a great way of being very fast playing, but also very precise. Like every note is just, yeah, like absolutely perfect. And it's another song which I believe was also considered to be a single. However, like I said, they only released like the one official single like from this album, like which, yeah, like is a real shame considering like there's kind of like songs like ready to go like this, like what could have been like hits. So yeah, Real by Real, really good track. 10 out of 10 from me. Next one up is called Millions, which is a much slower song. This it has got some quite intricate guitar lines on it, and it is a very much a far cry from the kind of fast sort of punky material like of like the first two albums. But for me, there's just something about the track like which doesn't do much. I think it's maybe a bit too dragged out. Like there's a lot of space on it, but there's just not a lot going on like on like the track, and then that riff, like what kind of like punctuates like the whole song, just gets a little bit repetitive for me. So yeah, Millions is maybe a little bit too long. I kind of I appreciate like what they were trying to do with this track, but I just don't think it really comes off too well. Next track track up is called That Is The Way, which is another Colin Moulding song, and this is, yeah, again, it's a kind of similar lyrical themes to Making Plans for Nigel, kind of concerns about sort of like the family dynamic and how like one like has to like behave, like he sings like on it, like go and speak to your niece, kiss your aunt on the cheek, don't talk back, now run along, and then it sort of like goes on like that. But it's then got very catchy chorus. Gregory does some great guitar lines on it. Plus you've also got a like nice touch like with like the trumpet like on it. It was the first time that XTC used a external session musician, so I think that was like a really nice touch. And overall, it's just a really catchy song, which I always have a great time to when it's on. So yeah, That Is The Way, and we'll get a 9 out of 10 from me.
In the outside world, in the outside world.
The next track in is called Outside World, which is probably the most punky song like on the album. It's definitely the track which I think has most in common with the first two XTC albums, like kind of like a throwback to those ones. And yeah, as I said, it's just an upbeat sort of punky song. Lyrically doesn't really mean too much, but is a good track though. Partridge said that like kind of like this sort of spot like on the album is kind of I think they called it like the dead spot like on the album where sort of filler material would kind of usually go. But I think this is better than filler. I think this is a good song. It's not a career highlight, but it's still a good track. So yeah, Outside World for me would get a 8 out of 10 there.
So be kind and helpful to your mother. Just think twice before you...
Penultimate song now is called Scissor Man, which is another track which for me I think is maybe a tad overrated. I do often hear a lot of people really rave about this song, but for me it's never been a huge favourite of mine. I think it kind of shows a bit as well the kind of influence that sort of like the dub reggae was having like on Andy Partridge like around this time. Like I think shortly after this album came out he would release an album of mostly remixes from this, like called Lure Off the Salvage, like the following year. Now lyrically it's about a scissor man who kind of like a character who kind of like imposes harm like on those like who do like bad deeds again, like whatnot. But yeah, for me it's just not a song which really does too much. I think it's just yeah, a bit of filler for me.
It's just a complicated game.
Next track up, which closes the album, is Complicated Game, which is for me a song which I'm slightly hot and cold with. It's a song which I definitely need to be in the mood to hear because it is just such an intense track. I mean, Partridge sings it with such passion and conviction, but I do think it does go on a little bit in terms of length, especially like kind of like the fade out bit, like where it's kind of like just like this sort of like this vocal echo thing, like so like going like back and forth like on like the end like off the track. But lyrically, it's a very good song. It's kind of about someone like who's quite confused like with like the world like and like their place in it. And I've also read as well that it was recorded all in one take, this song, which is truly remarkable considering just like that's such a powerful, intense performance like from Partridge like on like the track like and like the rest of the band like as well like for that matter. But for me, I just don't quite rate it quite as highly as most other XTC fans like tend to do. I think like I said, it's just a track which I really need to be like in the mood like for hearing like to fully enjoy the song. Okay, so overall this album would score 86%. So I do think this is the first classic XTC album. I think they completely reinvented themselves like on here. They found like that magic formula like which would like see them through for like the next couple of albums. I think, like I said, it all just came together. The songwriting, like on one hand, like had improved immensely compared to the first albums. They were produced by much better producers like on here, like Steve Lillywhite, Hugh Padgham, like that, and then combined with Dave Gregory, who does some amazing guitar work like on like these songs here. It was just able to capture like it's still got a lot of energy on it, but it's just captured like so much more effectively. I think like there's a lot of classic songs here which do stand the test of time. I mean, Making Plans for Nigel, Helicopter, When You're Near Me, I Have Difficulty, Rhodes Good Over the Globe. It just goes on and on and on. But I do think it maybe does sort of tail off a little bit towards the end. But it's still a great track. But it's still a great album though, and yeah, I think is rightly considered among their greatest work. So that's been my review of XTC's drums and wires. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and yeah, if you've got any more suggestions for future reviews, please do leave them down below, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.
Come on, come on, come on.